So I have the privilege to introduce to you Dr. Kate Boyd from the Patient-Centered Outcomes Research Institute, who has been our program officer as we've worked on this enhancement project related to COVID-19. She is one of the program officers at PCORI, and she's responsible for making many of the decisions related to these kinds of engagement awards and monitoring the program, and herself was an engagement awardee in the past and is now here shepherding through other engagement awards. So she's going to give us a brief overview of the Patient-Centered Outcomes Research Institute and its mission to ensure that research that is conducted is the research that matters to patients, to family caregivers, and to other important stakeholders. So thank you so much, Kate. I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks for that introduction, Carol. I'm going to share my screen here. Bear with me. All right, can you see that?
It looks good. Oh, there you go. That looks great.
Wonderful. I'm Kate Boyd. I'm a program officer with the Patient-Centered Outcomes Research Institute, and I am going to keep this brief, but I'm going to share a little bit with you about engagement in research. So the Patient-Centered Outcomes Research Institute was authorized by Congress in 2010 and is governed by a 21-member board of governors representing the entire healthcare community. We fund comparative clinical effectiveness research. This is research that engages patients, caregivers, and other stakeholders throughout the entire research process. Essentially, we're funding research that works best for you. Every research project that has an engagement plan, every research project has an engagement plan, which ensures that every research study funded by PCORI utilizes these engagement principles throughout the entire research process. So reciprocal relationships really ensure that roles in decision-making authority includes all stakeholder partners and are defined collaboratively and clearly stated. Co-learning ensures that patients and researchers learn about the strengths that they each bring to the table. Partnerships ensures equitable compensation, commitment to diversity, and demonstrated cultural competency. And transparency, honesty, and trust ensure that decisions are made inclusively and information is shared transparently. This slide shares a little bit about PCORI's work in dementia and cognitive impairment. So as of November 2020, PCORI has awarded $78 million to fund 13 comparative clinical effectiveness research studies related to dementia and cognitive impairment. So we really want to fund research that addresses questions that matter to determine what works best for which patient based on their needs and preferences. So for example, a patient might be saying, I've been diagnosed with mild cognitive impairment and I worry it may become Alzheimer's disease. Can exercising or doing crossword puzzles slow down or prevent this progression? And a caregiver might ask, I hesitate to make all of the healthcare decisions for my husband who still has lucid days despite his Alzheimer's. How do I know when to answer for him or let him talk to the doctor himself? And these are the roots of the questions that we're trying to answer here at PCORI. So of the 13 studies that we have funded, we have heard from both awardees and patients how the patient perspective has really guided the research process. So from the researcher perspective, patients offer a very important voice in the development and interpretation of the study. They offer the investigators a sense of what the research participants are experiencing, specifically how participants may view the questions being asked and ways to word the questions. One of the patient advisory board members on a study attends all of the steering committee calls and continues to assist study teams as a sample patient in training calls for site investigators. His insights have helped to improve the telemedicine visit experience for patients and investigators alike. And from the patient perspective, one patient noted that I gave my views on what patients value. The research question was then tweaked, taking my input into account. So here you can see how researchers and patients are working together to answer really valuable research questions. So to wrap up, the Patient-Centered Outcomes Research Institute funds comparative clinical effectiveness research. Comparative effectiveness research generates and synthesizes evidence comparing benefits and harms of at least 2 different methods. PCORI investigates what works, for whom, and under what circumstances. We engage patients, caregivers, and other stakeholders throughout the entire research process, and this ensures that we are answering questions that help patients and other healthcare stakeholders make better informed decisions about health and healthcare options. And I know I went through this very briefly for the sake of time, and I want to encourage you to reach out to me. Here's my phone number and my email address. You can also go to www.PCORI.org or look at us on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kate. And I think our relationship with PCORI has been so productive. I think in thinking about research, I think we believe that everyone brings expertise to the table, whether it's their lived experience as a patient or a family caregiver, or their experience as a researcher or a healthcare professional. And I think with that kind of a collaboration, we can really move ahead to solve some of the important questions that we're dealing with these days. So thank you so much, Kate.
Absolutely. And if you have any questions for me, you can throw them in the Q&A as well.